The Chicago Bears stole one in Las Vegas. The first half was a disaster. Caleb Williams looked rattled, and the offensive line was a crime scene thanks to Maxx Crosby. But turnovers, a blocked kick, and one rising star on offense flipped the story. Are the Chicago Bears witnessing a superstar in real time? I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. With me tonight is my co-host and good friend Bob Weiss. This is the Halas Huddle, where ugly wins are still wins.
Halas Huddlers, this is a win streak. This is what it looks like to win 2 games in a row. It doesn't have to be pretty, but it happens. So now is the time to join the Halas Huddle community. Our community continues to grow video by video. We want you to join. Please comment on this video, like the video, make sure YouTube knows you're enjoying our content as well. And we're going to have a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, Bob, let's get right into the mauling report. I don't want to sit here and say that the Chicago Bears did not deserve to win, because look, anytime you go on the road, and I know it was like 50% Bears fans at Allegiant Stadium, but it's a game on the road. You're traveling, you're in Las Vegas. You're keeping yourself at bay of not going out and partying, I would hope. And they came away with the victory. And here's my point. The Green Bay Packers just tied with the Dallas Cowboys. Tied. That's like kissing your sister, your third cousin. Okay. You've got a tie against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys gave you Micah Parsons and you still couldn't beat the Cowboys. How is that a thing? Fuck the Packers. The Chicago Bears deserve to win this game. It was one of those situations, like if this was reversed and they had lost, we would have been like, it's just the Chicago Bears again. There's this team that just can never get over the hump. They're this team that just knows how to lose because they're a bad team. Guess what? Good teams, they know how to win. It doesn't matter who their opponents are or how they win. A win is a win. I don't care how ugly it is. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest with ourselves. This is a game the Chicago Bears would lose 10 out of 10 times in the past. Let's just say if it was played over the past 11, 12 years. That's what the Bears do in these games. They find ways to lose it. Now, in the first half, Rob, Justin, and I, all the text thread going, I said very early on, this looks like 2 bad teams today play in this game, right? But the second half was still a different story for both teams, right? The Raiders played okay and the Bears played okay. Like, the Bears went out and won this game. The Raiders didn't choke it away. The Bears won it. Right? They won it with a solid fourth quarter drive, good time management, good defensive, timely defensive stops, and an unbelievable special teams play that they knew was coming. We'll get into that later, but they knew they were going to do that. This was an all-around absolute win. The Chicago Bears were in a close game, and they went and they won the game, and that should be the story. And the Bears usually lose this game, but they won it, and that should be celebrated.
Yeah. 100%. I think we should also celebrate Bob Stradamus because I'm pretty sure you had this correct for the first 4 games.
I did.
2-2 going into the bye.
2 with the bye, and I had them losing the first 2 and winning the next 2. So, and I had them winning 11 games on the year. So I we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yeah, 4 for 4 in terms of predictions. So pretty good.
That's always good. All right, let's move on. We're going to switch things up a little bit this week for those of you who have listened to and watched our show before. Pivotal Plays is actually going to come up right now. We're going to just kind of dive in a little bit with the key players and plays. And a lot of these things might come up a little bit more detail when we get inside the den. Bob, I'm going to throw it to you. Throw out a pivotal player or a pivotal play.
First, let's just start kind of with the first half. Maxx Crosby. Just absolutely obliterated our offensive line, just beat us up and down for the entire half of football. Things improved a bit in the second half, maybe when there were some switches on the offensive line. But for certain, Maxx Crosby's a beast, and he was a problem.
But we'll talk about how that maybe changed as the game went on. I'm going to go on a negative rant here about a guy that I am very, very high on. I am going pivotal player Cole Kmet. And this is not for a good thing. Cole Kmet had 9 targets. 1 extremely crucial drop that would have not only been a first down. Had he caught it, we've seen him bulldoze guys over. Could have actually been a touchdown. Caught it at like the 3, hit him right in the hands. You got to make that catch. I know he's kicking himself for that. But it goes beyond that. 2 false start penalties. on Cole Kmet at horrible time. It just seemed like he just wasn't mentally there. And I joked about it on Twitter. Maybe he was the guy that went out partying the night before. But if that's the case, you can't do that, especially when Colston Loveland is out with injury.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as bad as you see a consummate pro, who's believed to be a consummate pro in Cole Kmet. Look, that was rough. But I'm going to go with another consummate pro who had a great game in Kevin Byard, right? 2 huge interceptions in the first half, even though the offense wasn't able to convert them. The Raiders didn't score in those positions either, right? So just huge turnovers from Kevin Byard. He continues to prove that while he might not be an all-pro type player, there's a couple plays every game where, Byard, made a mistake or something like that. But impact player, a couple huge hits too on a couple of players. I know he crushed Trey Tucker, I believe, on the sideline one time. So just great game from Kevin Byard, pivotal player for sure.
Speaking of Kevin Byard, let's give a quick shout out to his cohort. I mean, defensive back. He's a corner and not a safety, but 2 weeks in a row, Tyreek Stevenson is looking the part. I got real nervous when he came off after his interception and thought maybe something bad happened, but it looks like maybe just the wind got knocked out of him. The way he caught that ball, that diving interception, the flip up, and it kind of I don't think he actually knew which direction he was running in at first. But he has been making play after play after play. I know I prefaced it and I keep giving myself a pat on the back. Gary had said this also. He's a good man coverage corner, and they play a lot of man in this defense. So I am just excited to see him actually do something. Had we seen Jalen Johnson on the upside, or maybe even Kyler Gordon, things would be a little different. Now, I have to go back and look. I didn't actually see this, but I did see someone say that on that particular play, he was Tyreek Stevenson was actually playing the nickel position. So I'm going to have to go back and check that out and confirm. Right. But yeah, big shout out to him. That's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, and that's about as good as the play as you'll ever see a DB make. That was sick. That was awesome. I am going to go with another pivotal player. I'm going to give the other team some credit here. Ashton Jeanty, right? And he finally showed what he's capable of in the NFL. Unfortunately, it did come against the Bears, but just the strength, the power, everything that we talked about in the draft process, where if this is a guy the Bears take in the top 10, we're going to be okay with it, was on full display. And it wasn't necessarily just the stats too, right? Like, he was a leader out there. I don't know how many times he was the one who would put his arm around Geno Smith after an interception. So I guess 3 times. He also was out there talking up to his other players. So it just couldn't be more, impressed with what we saw out of him. And also just like, oh man, that might be the type of guy that this Bears offense is missing right now. So Ashton Jeanty, beast.
Also on your fantasy team. So that's
also on my fantasy team. Really worked out with the Bears to win, and Jeanty goes for 3 touchdowns. I'll take it.
And not against us. So always good. I'm going to throw it in here that we actually didn't talk about pre-show, but I actually do think it was a pivotal play. The punt by Torrey Taylor that put it down at the 2-yard line, the way that it just stopped. This is what we've been wanting, what we've been waiting for to see consistently from this guy. And that play itself, pinning them that far down, was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I got 2 more pivotal plays. Just go real quick. The Caleb to Rome touchdown. We'll get into Rome a little bit more later, but when you get that big turnover from Tyreek Stevenson and then you put it in the end zone on that same drive, that was just huge. I believe that was 3rd down still as well. Yeah. And it's just a huge conversion, huge touchdown. That connection is great. And the other thing, the obvious, we will get to more detail later, but Blackwell's blocked kick at the end. I think you could say that was a pivotal play.
100%. 100%. All right. Let's get into Inside the Den. This is one of our weekly ones here. The Ben Johnson effect. Good, better, best. That's his rant, right? That's how it starts. It's got me excited hearing it every single time. We talked last week about the difference between Ben Johnson and Matt Eberflus and their first victory. Brendan Shagru, I gave him credit last week. I'm going to give him credit this week. People were asking for it, and he put together the second victory of Matt Eberflus versus Ben Johnson. And I believe they might have both been road wins as well. And the contrast difference, again, is just astronomically hilarious. But besides that, look, that's like the after effect. I was very frustrated with Ben Johnson at the beginning of this game. It just felt like the play calling was slightly off. Things just weren't meshing the way that I expected. I felt like, and maybe it was a personnel issue, and that they did make a change later in the game, but not accounting for Maxx Crosby enough. I felt like, and maybe they were trying, and Maxx Crosby's just that good, and he just was just everywhere, just disrupting everything. But just like and look, I will say, as much as I hated it at the time, thinking about it now, trying to get those quick wide receiver passes, those bubble passes to the outside. I guess they'd be a screen. Yeah, it was a bubble screen, I guess. The one that was almost a pick six. I guess in that sense, that is how you kind of have to attack it at times. I don't know. I just was looking for more of like slants, the downfield, quick, just get it over the middle type situation. But when you're, missing your star draft tight end, and your other tight end is not really having a great game, so you can't really rely on him in that situation. He made up for it, though. He did. I felt like the second half was a lot better.
Yeah, and I'll let you handle the X's and O's. I don't really know how to critique game plans as well. Obviously, whatever they were doing on the first half didn't work. Whether that was game planning or player execution or what, I don't really know. But I do think Ben Johnson gets some credit for how he handled himself on the sideline, staying calm, composed, like all these types of things that we saw Kevin O'Connell do in week 1 when they came back from a horrible first half and won. I thought that's what we saw from Ben Johnson in this game. Right, I know he kind of caught some flack for maybe an awkward interaction with the sideline reporter at the end of the halftime, which I think wasn't as bad as people were making it out to be. But it's just this calm and exuding confidence that we're going to be fine, we're going to be okay, which is just really impressive. And then it's not just that. I do think game management again. At the end of the first half, they wanted to get a touchdown, but they didn't. But they still took down enough clock, got the field goal to make it a 4-point game at half, which is huge. The way they save their timeout, they use them in the first half when they need to, but then they save them in the second half. Let's just say we don't block that kick, we still get the ball with 30 seconds left and 2 timeouts because of the way he managed that second half, right? So there's just a lot of good things that I thought that he did. Just from managing the game that I thought was maybe even better than he's getting better each week too. So it's his demeanor on the sidelines, it's his managing the game. And then kind of last week, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. I think one of our news or noise topics was that Ben Johnson already has a better relationship with his players than Matt Eberflus ever had. And I'm starting to maybe buy into that narrative a little bit more. Watching that celebration video from the end of the game was something else. Everybody's engaged. Everybody is buying into this culture. There's 2 players when they gave their speech after the game ball who talked about this is how you change the culture. Like they're parroting the words out of Ben Johnson. They're believing it. They're buying into it. And I just, I really, I hate to get so excited because we've seen what happens with Bears fans before, but it just seems different. It really just seems like there's a different energy. And having real talent on offense on the field, maybe not so much on the offensive line together yet, but I think helps. But it's an exciting spot, and Ben Johnson is a huge reason to be excited right now.
Yeah, I'll just summarize really quick. So the sideline thing, I think, is just stupid in the sense that I don't think those interviews should even happen in the first place. I watched the one with Matt LaFleur last night too, and you could tell he was irritated by the questions that he was having. It's like, you guys are getting these guys at a moment they just want to get into the locker room and go talk to their players. Just let that be. Like, too much access, it can be a bad thing. And I think that's what we're seeing here with these sideline reports. I had no problem with how he responded. Whatever.
He did with the smile.
Question was dumb.
She didn't seem offended. Like I didn't understand the blowback.
Yeah. She was on 670 The Score and said, look, I wish that I had rephrased my question differently and given him like more in depth of what I was trying to get from him. Yeah. Essentially, she was trying to get him to say, I need to get the running game going. Well, no fucking shit. Right. What do you expect him to say?
Right.
Like,
right.
Anyway, but my big thing was the poise, right? And this kind of reminds me of like good coaches like Kevin O'Connell, like the poise, the fact that he went over and said something to Caleb Williams before that drive to put them in the lead in the fourth quarter was just like, look, this is what you were brought here for. You can do this. This is what you are meant for. Go out and do it. And that's exactly what they did. So, to your point, as far as personnel goes, look, Braxton Jones basically got benched, right? There was no injury that I was aware of. He was pulled. They moved Theo Benedette from the right side to the left side, and they brought in Ozzy Trapillo. I don't think either of them had a great game. They had to do a lot of chipping. Again, I feel bad for Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet was left on an island a few times against Maxx Crosby, which made a little to no sense. And maybe that was on the right tackle for not going to where he was needing to be. If you look at the stat sheet, Ozzy Trapillo had a great game. I think he had 41 snaps, 0 pressures, 0 sacks, obviously.
Oh, he had 0 pressures? All right. I mean, there's a couple. I guess I don't know how they grade it. I'm not saying he had a bad game. I'm just saying there's a couple times that I saw, he did a good job of like walling off as the guy went around him, but the defender clearly had an impact on the quarterback. So I don't know if that's a pressure or not.
Yeah, and I think it said that he had 2 QB hits, if I'm remembering this correctly. So maybe that's just because the ball was so far out. Hey, maybe one of those hits was the Maxx Crosby hit that really should have been a fucking penalty. As much as we got to give Maxx Crosby credit for what is going on, I am one of those people that I was literally just like, go punch him in the neck, get him out of here. I'm done with him. The Bears just felt like they were just not being aggressive enough. But again, I don't know what you do here on the offensive line if Darnell Wright can't come back. I think your starting lineup is exactly how it ended. I know we're going into a bye week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but
yeah. So, I mean, to me, that's the most frustrating part about what's going on with this offensive line is that the answers for both short-term and middle long-term are the ones that are already on this roster, right? They're locked in on the interior. They're locked in with Ozzy Trapillo no matter where he goes, right? And then on that left tackle, like, are you going to use a first-round pick on a left tackle next year? Maybe, but you need to use it on your defensive line. So you're going to get what you can. Like, are we now talking about moving Darnell Wright to left? Because that's just where it's got to be. If Ozzy's good enough at the right, maybe Darnell Wright can be good enough on the left. I don't really know, but I do think it's important to also say that, yes, Braxton Jones got benched, right? And I've always been a Braxton Jones guy, and I get it. But, like, I think it's important that I don't believe he got benched because of the pass blocking. And that's the obvious one to everybody can see on a pass play when the quarterback's getting rushed. Like, he got a couple of bull rushes twice, but no sacks on him. I don't even know if they counted as pressures. Like, for the most part, he did okay in the pass game. Watching this game a couple times, I watched this game a couple times on the condensed game version because it was just so much fun to watch that second half. But I watched the first half too, and I noticed it a little bit against Dallas last week. He is brutal in the run game. He looks like he's just running around trying to hit anybody. It doesn't matter who, and he doesn't even always hit him. He's flowing his body around. Last week on Dallas, he was on the ground of his own doing 4 or 5 times in that game in the run game, right? So and then the last play that Braxton Jones was in the field it was right before the field goal where they scored 6 points. It was a run to the left by DeAndre Swift, and Braxton Jones goes and just blocks the same guy Tooney's already blocking, leaving the guy right in front of Braxton Jones to just tackle Swift for a 3-yard loss or whatever it was on 3rd down, and they kicked the field goal. I believe that was the last straw. I believe it's Braxton Jones' run blocking is what actually got him benched. And then so Ozzy goes in. It looks like he did a better job. I know Theo Bennett obviously plays with effort. I really don't know how to grade him other than that. But obviously, he's doing some things that the coaches really like. And again, if we're going to pick on Ryan Poles for making all these other mistakes, we got to give him some credit for finding a guy like Theo Bennett, of an undrafted free agent rookie, to come in and make an impact. That's hard to do too. But I think that if I had to guess moving forward, Ozzy's your right tackle. I know we hear some things from Gary that, some people in the Bears over there don't really like Darnell Wright. So I think moving forward, Ozzy's your right tackle, and then they'll figure out left tackle moving forward. But that's kind of the way I see it. The running game, I do believe, got going in the second half better because of the changes they made to the offensive line, getting Braxton out and getting Ozzy on the right and Theo on the left. I think that had better to do with the run game getting going in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, they had some plays in there too where they were just attacking right at Maxx Crosby, who was basically getting too far in. And then I remember watching the running back. I don't remember if it was Swift or Mononga, just whooshed right past him because he was already in the backfield and just nowhere in the position to actually make the tackle. And I think that's what you kind of have to do sometimes with these over aggressive defensive ends. I mean, his get off, I'm jealous that the Chicago Bears do not have a defensive lineman who can get off the ball like Maxx Crosby. That's all I got to say. That we're not even really talking about the defensive line, but the defensive line sucked.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that more in detail over the bye week or something. We can talk about what the hell's going on there. But yeah, right now, let's try to stay a little bit more positive.
Yeah, well, let's look at the best block of the whole entire game. Maybe the whole season. Joshua Blackwell comes around the edge, dives, gets a hand on it. And honestly, it almost looked like Noah Sewell might have been able to get a hand on it too, the way it was going. But literally, I don't want to say save the game because, like you said, they could have had 30-some seconds, 2 timeouts just to go get another field goal to win it. But what's interesting is it's been reported by Ben Johnson himself that Hightower actually called that this was going to happen before the game play actually happened. He said, "Look, Blackwell is going to save this. We're going to get this. The game's going to be done. We're going to get it right now." And the reporting is that they had a tell on the long snapper, and it was Scott Daly, the Bears long snapper, who actually noticed the tell and brought it to their attention. So if that is all true, which I have to believe it since it came from Ben Johnson's mouth, that is freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. And again, I don't know. I think that came from Ben Johnson's mouth in his press conference today, right? And yes. I think Adam Johns had that story in CHGO this morning too. So I wonder maybe he's even the one who asked Ben Johnson the question or what happened. But yeah, I mean, that's so awesome to see what's going on behind the scenes where you hear that they're always studying, where like, Richard Hightower last week says they're always studying what's going on around the league in terms of field goal blocks. He said there's really nothing that he can say about trends or whatever, but he's like, yeah, we watch film. And then now you see like, yes, Scott Daly in the Johns article said he has watched every single kick in the NFL over the past 3 years. Every single one. He watches every single one. And I don't know what other things maybe have come to light because of his film watching, even if it's just this one. How meticulous is that you got your long snapper? Like you could say the long snapper won the game today by finding out that tell. Right. So it's just it just shows you what's going on behind the scenes that hopefully things are everything is working and building momentum towards this being a different type of Bears team.
Well, I will say John Gruden thinks there's a trend, and it has nothing to do with specifics outside of the fact that he is not happy. These are his direct quotes. He is obviously no longer a coach. He is with Barstool. He's more of a personality, but he says nobody plays and nobody practices. And then when you don't practice, you can't play good. You can't practice in pads either because of the collective bargaining agreement. So you don't practice. And when you do practice, you can't practice in pads. And then they don't let you practice long enough because if you practice 2 hours, you could be fired with cause. But some of these teams got to get out and practice. It pisses me off because when you don't practice and you don't play, you can't run block, you can't pass block, run blocking Bears. Hello. And you saw over the last 2 weeks, he didn't say last 2 weeks, he said last week, we can't even block for a field goal. And look at how many field goals are being blocked. So in his mind, it has a lot to do with the fact that you're not able to practice this enough. I have to think that that's a trend, maybe not a specific trend by certain teams and what they're letting up or what they're doing. But if this is the case, maybe we are going to see this continue throughout the year.
So I guess I would just say, is he saying that it takes more practice to practice field goal, like actual blocking on
because
it sounds like to be on defense and try to rush it, like because that's not getting practiced either. That seems to be going okay.
To me, I feel like they're just they're not practicing enough, right? Like they're probably not doing this at practice very often, or if they are, it's probably like your scout teams, just so your long snapper and your kickers are getting the practice, but your actual players who are playing, who are your second string defensive linemen or your second string offensive linemen aren't actually participating enough in it. When I went to camp, I mean, they did a little bit of field goal practicing. It was very minimal, a little bit of punting. I mean, when you're only getting 2 hours, I think you're hyper focused on the offense and the defense. You don't get enough special teams time. And then you also got to put in kick return and punt return too. So,
right. And so, I mean, as long as we talk about special teams, I think that there's a couple more things to talk about. One, our coverage teams are just, I feel like they're giving up way too many yards, especially on kickoffs. The other team seems to be getting to the 30, 35 a lot easier than I'm watching around the league. So I don't know if there's stats to back that up, but that seems to be a problem. But also on the good end, Carlos Santos, 4 for 4, 250 plus.
Yes.
Now they were 51 yarder or 52 yarders. It's not like he booted a 56 yarder, but those 51, 52 yarders look like they might have been good from a good while longer. So, Rob, I'll let you maybe atone for previous comments or what?
Well, I will apologize to a degree. Look, Cairo Santos, I apologize. Look, you hit 4 for 4. You got a game ball. You deserved it. That was absolutely fantastic. I still don't think you are a weapon in the league. Your accuracy, maybe it does make you a weapon. But I still want my Brandon Aubrey type kicker. I just do. I'm very biased in this, and I want someone who I know that if I just get to the 45-yard line, I can actually get 3 points.
100%. 100%. It's a different era of the NFL, and yeah, you can't just be scratching and clawing to maybe get to the 38 and hope, right? That's just not the way the NFL is anymore.
Right. Well, speaking of defense, look, I won't get into the defensive line. Outside of, I think it's a major flaw. But the turnovers are definitely helping. It's insane how many turnovers this team is getting over the last couple of weeks. Byard, a big part of that. Tyreek Stevenson, a big part of that. It's again, I think it's just masking some of these major flaws. If they can keep it going, that's great. But if you're not getting home and you're not getting pressure, because it's not even like they're getting pressure. It's just, Geno Smith had a bad game. Like, he just kind of threw it into places he shouldn't have been throwing it. It didn't make any sense to me. Adam Archuleta, by the way, I thought had an awful broadcasting day, trying to make it seem like the interception by Caleb Williams was awful. And look, it wasn't good, but at the same time, like, had he gotten it over the top of the linebacker, like, there was room to put it over the top of the linebacker and put it, I think it was Rome actually going across the middle. Where was the hatred on Geno Smith's plays? Like, it just, I don't know. It just seemed like he had a vendetta.
Kind of a, like, on an aside here, but one thing that I'm hoping will come with the Bears being better is getting better broadcasters. We seem to be getting the bottom of the barrel this week and last. I mean, I guess last week we had Brady in there, but the week before against the Lions, I thought that we'd get better announcers for that. But we got Fox's bottom of the barrel. Like, it's just, like, at a certain point, I just hope the broadcasts improve if we keep winning.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big Tom Brady broadcasting fan anyway, so.
It's a much more entertaining and engaging broadcast than Adam Archuleta.
Yes. Oh, I mean, 100%. Right?
Like,
100%.
You know, so yeah, whatever. But anyway, going back to the turnovers, like I still don't think this defense is very good, right? But at least these last 2 weeks, there's been at least a bit of an identity of playing physical. We're playing physical. The other team knows that they're going to get hit, and that is part of it. And then now, 2 weeks in a row, I think it's 4 turnovers. It was only 3 against Dallas, but back-to-back weeks of 3 or 4 turnovers, like, that can become your identity. You're going to beat the crap out of the other team physically. You're going to take the ball away. And then whatever kind of happens in the middle, you just do your best to limit the damage. And if that's the best that they can play, and that's the identity they're going to have, that's fine. I will take that. That's a lot better than the Matt Eberflus bend and don't break. And just, I don't think it was overly physical. I don't think it was overly aggressive at all. The turnovers never actually really came in bunches the way they have right now. So, again, I don't think they're very good. We've seen it for a few weeks in a row now. This defense is just doing the best with what they can do. The defensive line is a huge problem, but I will absolutely take the physicality and turnovers.
Yeah, they are number 3 in the league right now for turnover differential. So
okay, there you go. Absolutely.
All right, we hinted at it. Superstar in the making. And I'm not talking Caleb Williams. I am talking Rome frickin' Odunze. And guess what, guys? Shane Waldron is part of the reason why we're seeing this happen. What do I mean by that? So let's go back in time. Shane Waldron was the passing coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams. He leaves. Cooper Kupp has an amazing, I think it was 16 touchdowns in that season that after Waldron left. I could be misquoting that. But he was absolutely amazing. Waldron goes to Seattle. They get JSN. JSN struggles his rookie year. Laughs off the Waldron hiring to the Chicago Bears. What happens when he takes over or leaves Seattle? JSN has a breakout season. He comes to Chicago. Same situation, I feel like, for Rome Odunze. Kind of just in the background, wasn't getting used the proper way. Then Waldron leaves. Boom! Rome's having a breakout year. Now Waldron is in Jacksonville. Do you know who's not having a good season? Brian Thomas Jr. So thank you for leaving, Shane Waldron, but I am glad that you at least came here, gave us our one bad year, and now we are seeing Rome break out. Look, this is all a joke. Bob, you've mentioned it many times. When it comes to the X receivers, it seems like that, second year is typically when you see that big jump. So I think that could be a big part of it as well. But I just want to give Rome Odunze his flowers right now. He is number 2 in the NFL right now in touchdowns behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay. He is top 10 in targets. His catches, not quite there. His catch percentage is a little bit lacking in that regard. Now, I will say a lot of that has to do with Caleb Williams as much as it does Rome. We've seen, though, we called him out for his 2 drops against, I think it was Minnesota, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe it was Detroit. And then he had the one last week. It was a bad throw. I mean, but it still hit him in the hands, and you gotta catch that. But he's had some contested catches. So look, he is coming into his own. He has at least 1 touchdown in every game. He's usually getting between 60. He's getting right around 60 yards on average. I honestly think that Rome Odunze, look, he's already the wide receiver 1 here in Chicago. I think he is proving that he is going to be a true wide receiver 1 in the NFL. And if you were lucky enough, like Justin and I, to get him as your wide receiver 4 in fantasy, don't expect that next year, because he's probably going to be, in that wide receiver 2 range.
Yeah, I also got him as a wide receiver 4 in mine, and I'm going to need him now because I lost my league neighbors. So, I'll take that. But yeah, I mean, the other thing about it, Rome Odunze's got 20 catches, 16 of them are for first down. So it's like every time he touches the ball, something good is happening. And when a guy like that comes out of college with that kind of talent, he's a top 10 pick on him. This is what we're expecting out of him, right? He's well on his way to a 1,400 yard season with 90 catches and 12 to 14 touchdowns. That is a legit number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, and I love that we're starting to see that be actualized.
All right. Not much here in the Bears blueprint for as far as what they're going to need to do to beat Washington, because they have a bye week. We get a week before we get to see this matchup. Although I will say it's still going to be the marquee matchup of the week. I'm still standing behind that. It sounds like Jaden Daniels should be back for that game. In fact, he should be back in week 5. So we'll see how that kind of develops and how much he's able to run. I think they need to figure out this defensive line or figure out how to get pressure. Like, that's going to be the big key. Look, it's going to be the trenches. Figuring out what you're going to do on the offensive line and who's going to start, and then figuring out how you're going to get pressure, whether it's from your defensive line, whether it's from your linebackers, whether it's from your safeties or your corners. And we saw Dennis Allen doing that against Seattle. I almost screwed that up because of Geno Smith. Against the Raiders, they never got home. So how are they going to solve these 2 issues?
Yeah, and part of that, too, in terms of getting home with the blitz, will be getting healthy. If we can get Kyler Gordon out there on the field and let him do some blitzing, I think that can go a long way. Obviously, I'm not saying that Noah Sewell is as good as TJ Edwards, but I think Noah Sewell is doing a pretty good job filling in. But getting TJ Edwards back, right? He's supposed to be one of your better players on defense. So having TJ Edwards should be better than Noah Sewell, and that improves the defense. So that should help. And then kind of offensively, we used a top 10 pick on an offensive weapon. I guess we can say tight end, whatever, position of value, but it was still a top 10 pick on an offensive weapon, and we've barely seen him do anything. So he's got to get right, and they got to figure out how to get him into the game plan. But those are the two for me, really. Colson Love and Kyler Gordon. Get healthy, get on the field, and start making an impact.
So that's a great blueprint. I think combined, we're going to get 11 wins, just like Bob predicted.
That's right. Well, I just want to take a little bit more time here to just fuck the Packers. All right. For the longest time, I have been almost a defender of the Packers. It's look, guys, they're always better than us there because they do things the right way. They're the model of how things should go. It's good and great. And then we do this podcast. We start interacting with the Packers fans a little bit, and they are just pretentious pieces of shit. I hate all of them. I haven't seen a single decent comment from a Packers fan in anything we've done. They are awful. So I'm watching that game last night, just dying, just hoping the Packers fuck it up somehow, hoping Jordan Love makes an interception. And he almost blew it at the very end. He almost let that clock run out in overtime. But it's just my head knows that what the Packers are doing is smart. I like Matt LaFleur, Josh Jacobs, such an easy guy to root for, but fuck the Packers. I want them to lose every goddamn game.
I've been wanting to say this for a while. I wanted to bring it up on a midweek episode. It just didn't work out. But I just find them to be these, you said pretentious little pricks. It's funny because on the Skull podcast that we did, we were actually asked which team within the NFC North do we find to have the most annoying fans? And my answer was actually Vikings fans, because personally I've encountered, one of my closest friends growing up was a Vikings fan. He was not a very engaged with the game fan. He wasn't as knowledgeable as you would think he should be. And look, they had Dante Culpepper and Adrian Peterson and Randy Moss. So I get why you're a Vikings fan, but at the same time, you don't know half the other players on your team. And I had another guy who I was conversing with consistently throughout that part of my lifetime. We're stupid idiots and just annoying. And they thought they were going to win the Super Bowl every freaking year, and they've never won one. So that's even funnier. But since you're pointing this out, the way that this has been since we've been doing this podcast, I think I have to change my answer to being the Packers fans, because yes, and on social media, on Twitter is just as bad too. They are just these privileged, rich kids that if you went to school with any privileged rich kids that just felt like they could get away with everything, their shit doesn't stink. You kind of you fucking hated them and you just wanted but at the same time, you're damn, I wish I was kind of that guy, because I wish I had that car. And but now I want this script to turn, and I just want to shove it up there and just, the Chicago Bears, I really hope are turning a page. And I really wish they lost that game. I don't know how there was still a second left. Matt LaFleur looked like he was pissed that he even ran a play. I was really hoping. I thought maybe he thought he had a timeout.
Running the play was the fine thing, but he needed to snap it 4 seconds earlier.
Oh, he was taking way too much time.
What are you doing, man? What are you doing? And I do think having 1 second left on the clock was the correct call. I think that's the way it should have been. I don't think they got lucky that the clock.
No, it was
something like that. Yeah. But it's just, good God, man. I was just waiting for, and Jordan Love played really well. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. Jordan Love
threw an interception
really well. It's just
lucky
that at the end, man, just would have been so sweet. Power rankings would have been awesome this week.
Yeah, but only 3 touchdowns, not 4 like Caleb Williams. So
right. Not a W like the Bears.
Yeah, and not a W like the Bears. So, look, I'm going to be really interested to see where your power rankings come out now that the Bears got another victory.
Yeah. Still working on it, but we'll get there.
Yeah. I won't be here for a midweek episode. I don't know what's going to happen this week. We'll have to see. I'm a little bit on a bye week this week. I am surprising my wife and taking her away for our anniversary. She has no idea where we're going.
She doesn't watch the show?
She doesn't watch the show.
Okay.
Shockingly, my wife does not like sports. No competitive bone in her body outside of when she screams at people who are attacking my children on the soccer field. She's one of those, but yeah, so we're surprising her for our anniversary. So I'm looking forward to that. And I won't be here until we get back for I don't know what we're going to do. The Bears Sunday bye recap.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. We'll come up with some good stuff for you guys. I promise. We'll be here.
All right. Until then, though, Bear down and claws up.
Ready, break.